Okay, hi everybody, I'm Kara. Thank you for the intro, and today I'm going to be talking about keeping it fresh. Okay, so there's some fresh ladies there. So now what is keeping it fresh? I'm going to have three main points that I'm going to talk about today. The first one is, what does keeping it fresh mean, right? Second is, I'm going to give you a little insight into my life and how I try to keep it fresh, keep this fresh flavor going. And I'm also going to share with you a couple people that have inspired me with their freshness. And third, we're going to talk about your personal frequency, right? What does this mean when you're navigating, you're figuring out who you are, and I'm going to give you some tips in case your freshness might be just a little bit off. I'll help you get back on track. Okay, so how do I keep it fresh, and what does this mean to me? Well, first, I've always kind of lived my life thinking about this idea of this personal frequency, right? Tuning into this, and what does that mean? The first thing is, for me, personally, happiness is the most important thing. And Vishen talks about when he interviews people here at Mind Valley, in the workplace, happiness is actually the number one thing that people look for when they come here. So in the same way, for me, outside of work, in my personal life, also happiness is the number one thing. So it makes sense that I'm tuning into this, finding this balance constantly. So I'm constantly tuning into this. Second is, I like to laugh at uncertainty. There's a Buddhist woman that's, her name's Pema Chodron, and she's one of the women I look up to, and she always says, to be fully alive, to be fully human, and to be the most awake is when you're constantly taking yourself out of removing yourself out of this nest that you're in and putting yourself out there. So that's something I've started to live by. And finally, my third thing that I'm starting to try to do more in my life now is to live compassionately, and that means for both myself and also for others. And Pema also has a really great quote where she says, to constantly strive for success and perfection, we're ultimately never going to be able to be good with ourselves and therefore never be perfect. So it's really been a recent learning experience for me how to live more compassionately for myself as I've got all these big dreams. So now I'm going to move into my story about how I've tried to keep it fresh. And you'll see me as a kid. I'm about maybe 9 years old there. And in my opinion, I was pretty fresh back then. You might not agree with the glasses and the braces and the Homer Simpson shirt, but I was feeling pretty cool. Inside, because I was doing my thing, I was making music, I was hanging out with my friends, and I was really excited about life. And then, I kind of moved forward to, as you graduate from high school, you're trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. And I was just kind of pushed into finance, and that was just kind of the thing that you were going to, was kind of pushed on me, just like Vina said, she had some things from her parents that they wanted you to do. So anyway, that's what I went for, and I graduated with a degree in finance. I moved to London. I worked in banking there for a couple of years. And then I got kicked out of the UK, that's another story, and I moved to New York City and decided to continue to work in finance, and I worked on Wall Street for a couple years. So it was at this time I really definitely started to feel like my fresh flavor was not so fresh anymore. I had all these really cool friends. I was living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which is like the hipster capital of the world. So, these were a lot of my friends were looking like, and, they were hanging out. They were like going to the clubs. They were making art, making music, making fashion. And here was me, like going to the subway every morning at 7 a.m. with my suit, it wasn't suiting me. And that was all going back to finding again where I'm tuning into my personal frequencies. So what did I do? I gave this picture for you ladies here. I actually started working at Calvin Klein. Oh, backing up actually. When I've been working on Wall Street for 2 years, and I ended up getting fired from my job there the same day that I got hired at Calvin Klein. So that was a really nice, interesting transition, but it kind of showed me that I was moving in the right direction. And anyway, so I started working there, and at the same time, I'd always been drawn to go to NYU, and so that was a dream of mine, and I didn't quite know what I wanted to study, but it just made sense for me to probably study business, as that's what I'd been doing up until then. So I got into Stern, and I was going to school on nights and weekends and working full-time. So now again, coming back to the fresh flavor, I'm feeling all right about this, but it's still not really I'm not able to pursue my creative inspirations that I wanted to. So it was at this time something really exciting happened to me. I discovered the internet. And it was like February 2009, I think. And this was when Kickstarter just started to come out, and people were talking about, they're from Brooklyn. And it got, it started to blow up, and I started to think, oh my gosh, I could maybe do this too. Maybe I could, I don't know, I love this idea. People are creatively supporting each other for their unique pursuits, and this is amazing. How can I get in on this? And so I then thought, okay, and I'd never been an entrepreneur before. I was not one of those kids that was out there with the lemonade stand. I mean, I think maybe I had one, but that wasn't me. So, but I did get this spark, and that was the spark for my first business, which was called Design Tribe. And Design Tribe came about as I recognized I had a lot of these fashionable, hip friends with pink hair, like making cool fashion designs, but they didn't have any business acumen. So I thought, why don't I start a business that will help support them, and I can use some of my business talents at the same time. So of course I thought this was amazing. I thought it was going to take off right away, and I was like, okay, this is going to be awesome. I rewrote like a 50-page business plan, all the things that you learn now, like you don't do when you start a business, but that's what I guess it's for, the learning experience is for. But anyway, so now you can see so now I've got this full-time job. I'm working at Klein. I'm going to school evenings and weekends in my MBA program. And now I've got this business thing going on. So something's got to give. And again, going back to tuning in, I'm thinking, all right, so what needs to go? And it was definitely the job, right? So whatever, I'm not having the least amount of fun in, basically. But at the same time, I needed to figure out how was I going to support myself in New York City, as well as support starting a new business. And this is when I moved on to taking my little side business, which I had with Airbnb, just renting out my New York City apartment, weekends and weekends and holidays, to a full-time thing. I did the math, and I thought, if I'm charging this amount of money and I can get it rented full-time, this almost is sort of replacing my income. I'm like, that's huge. Now, there's always the issue of where you're going to stay, But I had an amazing solution for that, and this next picture here shows my boyfriend at the time, my business partner there on the right, and my boyfriend's pit bull and we all moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the Lower East Side. We thought this was going to be awesome. We're going to just focus full-time on this Design Tribe. It's just going to kick off. It didn't quite happen like that. That's definitely another story, but it actually was not really that fun. But anyway, it led to something pretty cool, which was me taking a semester off of school at NYU, reflecting on what I had lost, and that was pretty much this crazy pursuit, which I can imagine a lot of us can identify here, being quite driven and wanting to reach and touch a lot of things in our lives. You also have to come back to how do you sustain this type of lifestyle and this drive and live compassionately for yourself. So that's when I discovered this program called Urban Zen, and it was a year-long program that I was in. And you can see a lot of my teachers. That's Rodney Yee, a yoga teacher, and Roshi John Halifax, and some others that were really well known in the yoga and meditation worlds. And so I practiced that for a year while I finished school, and that's actually been one of the most grounding things that I've experienced for me. And I feel like it's kind of setting me up for the next stage, which is where I'm at now. And I'm really excited. Here, obviously, at Mind Valley is amazing. Learning so many things. And you guys actually put Wall Street to the test here, like with the energy and everyone's focus. It's amazing. But I'm happy to be here, so I'm happy to work as much as I do. And this is my startup, Signify. This idea actually came across I came across when I was renting out my apartment to all these people with Airbnb.
So this is your idea?
Yeah, this is the one that I'm working on now. Thank you. So you can see the long process to get here, right? And there's still a long way to go. But anyway, the idea was started when all these people were renting my apartment with Airbnb, and I was like, they were asking me, what should I do? Where should I go? And I didn't have one go-to place to tell them where to go. So that's what Signify is going to be about. You'll be able to check. Right now, we're going to come out with a mobile app. We're building the mobile app right now, and you'll be able to see what's going on in your city and who's attending. And then I also have another project which I've started. It's called Chameleons, which is kind of interesting. This has been sort of like a personal thing, a name for myself. And this is, I recognize when we're all traveling, there isn't a way for us to stay connected unless it's kind of like via Facebook. So it's going to be a global social network for international globetrotter type people. And Christina's actually helping me out. We're working together on that, so that's awesome. And it's interesting how it all kind of comes full circle. But this is, there's still a lot of people that I've watched and been inspired by. First person is a woman named Cindy Gallup, and I had the pleasure of meeting her before I came here. And she's a 55-year-old advertising executive, very successful, who recently just dropped out of the game and started her own startup called Make Love Not Porn. And she only dates like 25-year-old men. She's pretty cool. So someone I think is definitely tuned into her own frequency. And then this is Pema Chodron, the woman that I mentioned. I said a few of her quotes. She was an elementary school teacher and now lives in Nova Scotia and writes a lot of amazing books. And I don't know, I'm sort of attracted to that lifestyle, so you never know. And for all you ladies, I just wanted to mention, like, there's a lot of tools that we have that I don't think maybe we take advantage of enough in our bodies. And what we have are, our minds are amazing. We have many, I'm not a scientist, we got a lot going on up there. We can multitask and also listening to your gut. This is something that I've, tried to do for my whole journey, and it's really served me well. And so that's some great advice I would be able to give. So finally, my 5 summary points of things that I would say to take away from this. Forget what your parents want you to do, right? Vanessa, if you want to go around and hand out flowers and pet Bambi and stuff like that, go for it. You don't have to do whatever you want. But you don't have to have the journey that I've had to get to this place. Second, build multiple income streams to give you a cushion. I know it seems like just a strategy thing for me to bring it up, but it's actually really important, I think, especially if you're at any age. Figure out different ways of things that you're interested in where you can give yourself that cushion to then go out and have that freedom to do what you love. And third, if you're doing anything entrepreneurial, why don't you just do something that you love? It's just the easy extension. And there's a million ideas out there. It's really just about execution, and I really believe you're not going to execute something unless you actually love it. So it's the easiest way to start. And 4, embrace your weirdness. I think we're all taught to do that here at Mind Valley, and I really appreciate that. And it's served me well. And 5th, put yourself out there. Just face that fear that I was talking to and laugh at uncertainty. And that's it. I really love talking to younger women that are just coming out. And if you've got anything you want to share with me, I'd be happy to help. So you can get in touch with me here, my Twitter handle, or email me here. And thank you very much.